Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Musings of Maverick channel. I'm your host, Maverick, and today we are going to be watching Fairy Gone, the second cour, starting from episode 13. Now, just to quickly explain things around here, I know it's kind of confusing for people because some people are saying that this is the second season of Fairy Gone, and so you'll sometimes see some websites labeling it as the second season, Fairy Gone second season, episode 1, but no, according to the official Japanese naming convention, this is the second cour. They simply had a break between the first and the second cour, so this is still the same season. So we're technically on episode 13. So, with that out of the way, I'm sure that there are some people here who are, from last season, and there might be some new faces here as well. Honestly, I was quite conflicted as to whether or not I want to continue watching this series, right? Because it definitely has its problems, and out of all the work on my channel, I feel like this is the one where I have to spend the most amount of time with the least amount of reward for it, at least in terms of viewership and whatnot, and, interactivity and whatnot. And the confliction here is that I actually really like the entire setting and story that Fairy Gone is trying to tell. I just feel like it's being overly ambitious, right? So I've actually spoken in length about this topic in, episode 1 through 12, where I feel like the author, he has a light novel background, right? He's trying to basically create this light novel kind of world with this world setting, making very complex backgrounds, very complex interactions between all the various parties and whatnot. How they each have their own agendas and stuff that they care for, this kind of political balance and so on and so forth. But he's doing this without the benefit of having an actual light novel work here, right? Fairy Gone is a completely original work that doesn't have any prior, other work that it can be based on. And so light novel adaptations by themselves are already really hard to do, right? Because there's so much information that you can cram into a light novel, right? And I feel like Fairy Gone is suffering even more from this because, nobody really knows the entire context of the story, right? Of course, we have the official website, which actually gives a lot of supplement information, and the Twitter as well. The official Fairy Gone Twitter also puts out a lot of supplementary information as well. And those are actually necessary, I believe, in order to fully understand the story that Fairy Gone is trying to tell. Beyond that point, I really, like I said, I really like the entire story and setting. I feel like the pacing and character interactions are also a big problem point. So hopefully with this, this season of rest, they can fix the script and fix these kinds of issues. And also maybe tighten up the animation a little bit, because sometimes in the last cour we had some pretty wacky scenes. The music itself is still being made by No Name, so I'm pretty sure it's gonna kick ass as well. And yeah, I think that pretty much sums up what I have in terms of the actual story. I believe we last left off where Diaz was basically killed for his coup attempt. We also had another coup attempt stopped, or assassination attempt stopped by the members of, oh man, I've even forgotten what that special organization's name is. Don't worry, it's gonna come back to me once I start watching it again, right? I just need to leave some time to get reacquainted with all this. Now, at least I still remember that the main character's name is Maria, right? The female lead is Maria, the male lead is Free, and the rest, they're gonna come back. We'll see. And also, before we begin, one last quick announcement, and that is there's actually a voting poll going on right now, where even though I already decided on most of the things I want to watch for next season, one series can be decided by you guys. So just go vote, and then I will be watching that series as part of my 2019 fall schedule. So with that said, let's get into the episode right now. Alright, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. Oh, please don't disappoint me. .505, I believe that's... Okay, this is the exact aftermath of what happened. This is Ray Dawn, right? BB is the head of the mercenaries. I remember. I think they're also trying to set up Radon as a sort of tragic hero, right? They keep on making his character be the one hated by. Is that Ray? "38 years ago." Yeah, it's Ray. Aha. Yep. Yurikin. This is the same village that Maria and Veronica came from, right? Wait, is it? We'll see. I'm kind of guessing that perhaps the entire backstory behind Radon is that he believes that fairies can be used for bad, and so he wants to destroy all fairies, and that's what's driving him forward. That looks like a Pokemon battle. Between legendaries. Actually, that's probably not the best comparison. Maybe something like Godzilla is better. Alright, 19 years later. 19 years ago. Was this during the war? Huh. Interesting. We're actually starting with Radon's story. Still a kind of weird mix of CGI and actual hand-drawn animation. Yvonne. Noel. Yeah, that's Maria's father. Okay. So they still haven't bonded with fairies at this time? Okay, so that's how Maria's father died? And this is Her mom. I remember she died shortly after birth, right? Mm. Ah, and the new opening. So I will be muting this, but I definitely will be watching this the first time. No Name's music is so good, I gotta say. I believe they've also put some of their studio lives on YouTube as well. Still standing. Huh. I was gonna say that the animation looks to be improved, but those CGI scenes. Okay, nice. Rain, sounds, crime, and white snows. Punishment. Oh, still with Radon's story. Okay. It's a. Hmm. That would be Maria, wouldn't it? Hmm. Hmm. Okay, okay. This is during the war. He's probably gonna die as well, and maybe in the end, that's why Ray decided to rid all fairies. Current day. Hey, Maria. Oh, skipping back again. So are you gonna talk about your father? Hmm. Ah, it's the previous course ending song in piano form. I love this song actually. The ending of last cour was actually one of my favorite ending songs of that season. Hmm. So she has a stronger affinity to fairies? And Veronica as well? Are you gonna get to see how Veronica is doing in present day? No, no. 12 years ago. So about 2 years before their village is burned down by Ray. A blessed child and a cursed child. So if you two are together, you can balance each other out? Oh, here we go. Oh, it was actually burned before the end of the war. Okay. Okay, so right now. Yeah. Makes sense in a way. So it actually was a pure massacre. Okay. Boom. Okay, they actually didn't even. They actually only showed the burning. They didn't show the complete massacre during the previous cour. Right. And so, 14 years later, Maria is still obsessed with finding Veronica. All of it will be his burden alone. Hmm. Oh yeah, another great ending song. I can feel it. Ah. Stay gold. I love this kind of, rock-based female vocals sort of thing. Sort of song. Okay. Yeah, we don't need to watch the preview. I'll see you guys in a second. Okay, so No Name have once again created quite the bops for the openings and endings of this show. Personally, I like the opening, I like this second opening better than the previous opening, but in terms of the ending, I feel like I still prefer the first ending a little bit more compared to this one. But that is just personal opinion, of course. And both the openings and endings have actually been uploaded onto YouTube, so I'll probably put a link down there below for you guys who want to check it out. And as well as No Name's studio live, which they performed the various Fairy Gone songs there. So yeah, in terms of the actual episode, right? So it actually provided a lot of much needed context in terms of the entire backstory to Ray Dawn, to Veronica, and to Maria, right? We were given, we were given pieces of this information before, but in this episode, it actually came together into a sort of coherent story, even though it still continues with this bad habit of jumping back and forth to different times, different times, jumping to suddenly 38 years ago and then to present day, 19 years ago and 12 years ago, that kind of thing. At least this time it's all concentrated on the same village, right? So it's not as confusing as some of the other time skips that they have been doing before. Or I can't really say time skips, flashbacks that they have did before with the previous episodes, right? And again, you can just see the sort of light novel inspired writing style for this kind of case, right? It's following the very very familiar format of perhaps when you guys read light novels, there would be this. You get into the first volume, the first book, and then it sets the tone, right? And then you're instantly, typically you're instantly treated to an event or a scenario or a story to get things along, right? And then maybe two or three volumes later, in the fourth volume or something, you would get some sort of flashback volume, right, where it suddenly goes into the past and explores all the different characters that we've seen so far and what they actually, what their past was actually like. you could definitely see this kind of inspiration and how the author Jumanji-san is a light novel author, right? Um, the thing here, though, is actually, let me talk a little bit about that a little bit later. Let's talk about the actual, story of the episode first. Not really much was, like I said, not really much is new. We could piece this together with all the information that we had before. It's just that it became more clear for this within this episode, and especially in terms of the in terms of what Ray Dawn is actually thinking, right? Like, what's his motivation? What's driving him to do all these different things? I have been thinking from the beginning that Ray Dawn is probably not just this sort of one-dimensional antagonist, right? He's not just being evil or bad for the sake of it. He has a set of beliefs that he believes in. He's not doing it, I don't believe, for his personal benefit or anything. He just simply has this deep distrust of fairies, right? He believes that they should be controlled and maybe even to the point of exterminated and whatnot. Even him using fairy power right now might just be a way to justify, a means to justify the ends, right? So, I mean, sorry, that should be flipped over. Ends justify the means, right? So maybe he's just using it right now because it's a valuable tool, but eventually he wants to create a country, a nation where there will be no more fairies and no more fairy tech and whatnot. So as we can see from his dialogue, he believes only in humans, right? In things that humans can control. He doesn't believe that fairies are something that humans can control. So that is what his entire story is. I think I'm hoping for a little bit more, not just what that we've seen so far. Maybe some other tragic story to his past, maybe in regards to his father. Maybe he knows some more knowledge in regards to the Black Fairy Tomb, something like that. Which will further develop his character and even allow us to sympathize him a little bit more, right? The best villains are definitely ones where you can even sort of say, okay, I can totally get what you're saying, and I even sympathize with you to a certain point. It's just that because we're on the side of the protagonist, of the main character, so you must be defeated still, right? Those are the best type of villains there are, and I feel like right now it's only... he's only stated a plausible, a logical explanation for the reason that he's doing these things. However, has it changed our perspective as to whether what he's doing is right or wrong? I feel like most people will probably say he's doing something wrong, right? We need some little bit more examples or context as to why fairy power is so such a big harm to humanity that leads Ray Dawn to do this sort of extreme thing. And really, that's basically the entire premise of this first episode, right? And, or I should say episode 13, the first episode of this cour. And really, I want to say that I feel like this would be a much better episode for the end of the last cour. And what I mean by this is because it's sort of creating, it's sort of wrapping up the story of the first cour in that we finally understand a little bit better and a bit more coherently what all the various characters really care about, right? Or at least two or three of the main characters, what they care about. Because Maria's story with Veronica early on, we kind of know that Maria was bullied or sort of like an outcast since she was young, and Veronica was like her big sis and helped protect her and whatnot. And we know that Ray came in and sort of massacred the village, right? But the exact happenings and whatnot and what their motivations are, their relationship with each other, this would have been a great sort of all-in-one recap of the entire thing. They didn't need to bring it within various different episodes, have flashbacks through lots of different episodes, just destroying the pacing and really just making it confusing for most people, since this is it's an episodic series, right? That means that we need to wait 1 week between each episode before we can get more information. And it's just, I don't know. I would have much preferred if they just skipped a lot of the different flashbacks that they strewn throughout all the other current day happenings that they had, and instead just focus it into one episode like this. That would have made the entire pacing much better, and it would also make as viewers, it would have given us a much easier time of understanding the entire story. So, that's my comment on that point. In terms of other stuff for this cour of Fairy Gone, the music is still on point. The background music is still on point. I really like had they used the last season last cour. It's hard to change the habit of saying last season. I'm glad that they used the previous ending song as well, Ash Like Snow, except in a more instrumental way there. I still feel like it's a very emotional and powerful song there. And the BGM has always been on point throughout the Fairy Gone series. Bad animation or story notwithstanding. And speaking of animation, I think it's okay. I don't feel like they actually fixed anything from the last cour. The CGI that's used is still really wanky, really janky, as it was in the last cour. The animation quality, I don't know. It seemed about similar, right? When I looked at the opening for this. When I looked at the opening and the battle scenes that were shown within, it definitely seemed like it jumped up slightly in terms of animation quality, but in terms of the actual episode that we see right now, I don't know. I feel like it's still so-so. Especially in regards to the facial expressions of the young Veronica and young Maria. It just looks a little bit weird and off to me. When we were going through the interactions between those two. But, at the end of the day, I don't actually care about it that much. The animation stuff, it's acceptable, right? It's not going to win any awards. It's not going to be something that people are going to say it looks great or looks pretty or whatnot, but it serves the job, right? At least it's not awful, right? But I think what's really going to make and break this series is in the story and pacing, right? And actually, I was reading the Twitter of the author of this series, Jumanji-san. He mentioned that actually for the second half, the second cour of Fairy Gone, he rewrote a lot of the script. And he said he rewrote it a lot more than any correction that he ever did for the first half, the first cour of Fairy Gone. So hopefully he took a lot of criticisms to heart and really tighten up the story, the storyboard, the script and whatnot, and makes it into a much more coherent story that is understandable for most people and doesn't rely on us having to go back and forth to make sense of the entire story, right? Hopefully, it's going to be something good and we will get a satisfying conclusion to everything. So, there we go. That's my review of episode 13 of Fairy Gone, or otherwise known as the first episode of the second season. Although, that is wrong. We should call it the second cour, episode 13. And, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Don't forget to vote, guys, if you want to see other series from me. And, well, that's about it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.